It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full forward. Becky's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big goal.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hey everybody, welcome to For the Love of the Game. We're going to take a good, hard, long look back at round 5, right up and down the VAFA across the weekend. Matty Donald and Brayden May to join us shortly. But first, there was one man in the prime spot for VAFA across the weekend. It was huge. It was everywhere. The Fevolution hit the VAFA. Fevolution Part 2, we were calling it. BRENDAN FEVOLA pulled on the boots for Eley Park Sharks in their game against St Mary's Salesian down in Thirds Division 5 at Whitehorse Reserve. The big man joins us now. Fev, welcome.
Hey, Jace, how are you, mate?
I'm really well, mate. How are you? How'd you pull up?
I've pulled up a little bit sore because I've actually got a torn meniscus. So I'm going in for surgery next week. So I heard it a couple of weeks ago. And then obviously my work's rolled me out for this game and I'm like, I couldn't let them down. And so I ran out there pretty much on one leg. So I pulled up pretty sore. But other than that, what a day. What a day. So much fun.
Well, talk us through the experience, because last year you played at Masala and Dandenong, and they've had some great success since, and it pulled a huge crowd, and it did wonderful things for local footy. So you guys thought you'd run it back this year. Talk us through your commitment to local footy, why you guys decided you wanted to do it again, and then why Eley Park.
Well, my connection to local footy, Jace, now, I don't know if you know this stat, but I've now played more local footy games, senior footy games, than I did AFL. So,
right. What sort of number are you up to?
205, which is I played 204. I played 204 games of AFL, and then the game with the Sharks on the weekend in the VAFA tipped me over. So I'm now more of a local footy player. So I guess what's an AFL player?
How many different clubs have you played at? Do you know?
Oh, Jace, Jesus! I've got a lot of jumpers.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd have a wardrobe full.
Well, I think this is a true stat. But I'm the only AFL, VFL player to play 200 AFL games and 200 local senior footy games.
That's a lot of footy, mate. Congratulations. We appreciate the
commitment. It's a lot of footy.
I know you've always been passionate about local footy. Why are you so passionate about it?
Well, I should have been playing in the 80s, let's be honest. So much more fun. And I think local footy is that. I didn't play my first. I played local footy when I was 16. I played my first ever game for Beaconsfield. I think Jeff Ablett was the coach. Michael Tuck was the runner. And I was a young 16-year-old, played with a couple of ex-AFL players, and then obviously didn't play another league game or local footy game until I finished my career at sort of Brisbane. So I went up to Yarrawonga, and I didn't really like footy at the time. I was off footy. I'd been, life wasn't going in the right direction, and then I got the opportunity to go up and play at Yarrawonga. And I think country footy, especially, the whole town's either netball or football. The footballers are usually married to the netballers. They have kids, and then they all wait around the hospital to see if it's going to be a netballer or a footballer to go down to play at that club. And they just love footy, and it doesn't matter where you've played or how high you've been or how low you've been. They just treat everyone the same, and they live and breathe it. And they just brought the love back for footy that I'd lost. And the president had been there for 40 years. He's out there doing the lines before the game, before the under 18s game, and everyone's in the canteen, and you have beers afterwards, and there's beers after the game in the middle, and you're just chewing the fat. You go up to the rooms, and the opposition comes in, and everyone's mates. And I think that's footy. Like, when you're in the AFL bubble, Jace, you sort of lose track of what's going on in local footy, and you don't get down and see your mates, and you don't really know what's going on in the country leagues or the VAFA or the suburban leagues. You're just in that bubble of footy because it is demanding being an AFL footy player. But having access, finishing my career, I was only 29 when I finished AFL, but being able to go out and play these local footy games, it's like I've got mates. I've played one-off games in WA, Tassie, middle of bloody absolutely nowhere, and I'm mates with these blokes still now. You meet people that you don't normally meet. You have a couple of beers with them, you do a sportsman's night, you stay out with them that night, and then you go in the next day, but you keep the connection. And I think that's what local footy is. Everyone's just mates. And I absolutely love play. I could play local footy for as long as I possibly can.
Well, let's hope that meniscus surgery goes well and you've got a few more games left in you.
Oh,
So last year, as you mentioned, with Masala, had a great response, had a wonderful day out there. Why Eley Park?
Yeah, it was great. Well, we had a look at the fixture last year, and they had I think their percentage was 18%, and they struggled a lot. And we just liked the Sharks aspect. We got Amy Shark to perform last year. We had Guy Sebastian, who famously played and did his Achilles in the game, and we thought it'd be great to get Amy Shark down there, and it was just a great fit. So, you know, I think we had double the numbers with crowd-wise, and I'm obviously at AFLW Richmond, and the AFL Richmond boys were playing across the road at Box Hill against the Box Hill Hawks.
Yeah, it was a VFL game, wasn't there? Yeah.
And there was no one
there.
there.
No one over there.
The footy club. There was no one watching. And they were like, what's going on over there? And, mate, it was packed. There was about 3,500 people there. It was huge. Massive crowd. I was speaking to a few of the Sharks boys before the game, and the reserves were playing against, is it Ferry Panola?
Yeah.
Panola?
Yep.
Yeah, where the Bannisters are famously from, who I played with Jordan Bannister. They'd never played in front of people before. It was about 2,000 people there to watch the reserves. So it was just a great fit, and what a great day. I worked with Masala, and we got up and had a win. They hadn't won for a few years, and to get in there. And the thing is, I train with them on the Thursday night. It's just every club's the same. They just love their footy club. They love getting out there on a Tuesday and Thursday. It's a good outlet for them, and to rock up there on Saturday and pull on the Sharks jumper it seriously is the best. It's so much fun.
In the end, it turned out to be a great game. You guys were sitting on a big lead. I think you were 6 goals up at three-quarter time and got nailed by 4 points in the end. It turned out to be a great game. But credit also to St Mary's Salesian, who have to go along with all of this, right? All the build-up, everything. It's always about Eley Park Sharks. They came along, played the game in good spirits, and turned out and put on a really entertaining game for the thousands that turned up.
Yeah, they did, mate. And we are obviously on Fifi Fev and Nick, the radio show. We all obviously organised it, and we gave them a pump up, and we got their skipper on the radio, and he did a bit of trash talk, and it was going back and forth. But the guy I was playing on in the second quarter, I think he was a massive Carlton supporter, because the whole time I'm mic'd up, and he's just talking to me about footy and Bossy getting sacked and who's going to step up. And I'm like, mate, look, we've got to play footy. He just wanted to talk footy with me. But they were great, and I think he said that they'd never played in front of this many people before, and that no one in their team had played in front of that many people before. So for both teams, it was such a great highlight. And, we didn't have a bench in the last quarter, so they overran us, and we couldn't quite get the chocolates. Hughesy left at half-time because he had to get a flight. So I'm blaming Hughesy. We needed him on the ground, Dave Hughes. He absolutely left us. And I don't know if you've seen the footage, Jace, but Hughesy had Dustin Martin's 2017 grand final boots on. He had his full Eley Park Sharks kit. He got into his chauffeur-driven car, drove to the airport, got on a plane, flew to Sydney in his full kit.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? And he only just made the flight too. He was hobbling through the airport, and his boots were clattering. I'm thinking, he's going to go arse over here.
So he's taken the Eley Park's VAFA team all the way on the plane to Sydney, and then jumped in a car in Sydney and went straight to his gig in his kit.
that is commitment. That's team commitment. Hey, Fev, thanks so much for everything you do for local footy, mate, and particularly the VAFA. We've got a really special connection with you over the last couple of years, and we'd love to do more with you in the future, mate. So thanks very much, and good luck with the surgery.
Thanks, Jace. I appreciate it.
Brendan Fevola joining us on For the Love of the Game. After the break, we'll talk William Buck Premier Men's. We'll get Matty and Brayden in as For the Love of the Game continues.
The VAFA Big V Luncheon returns in 2026 on June 5 at the RACV City Club. A celebration of community, tradition and the very best of Big V representative football. Join the 2026 squads, past greats and supporters as we honour the game, including the induction of 3 Big V champions, recognised for their outstanding contribution to the mighty Big V. And don't miss the proud moment for the future as the 2026 Senior Big V men's and women's teams are officially presented with their Guernseys. It's history, pride and passion all in one room. Tickets available now at vafa.com.au.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk William Buck Premier Men's, and one of the great stories so far of the season is Old Trinity. They have won 4 in a row now. They racked up their 4th win after eventually getting the better of Old Haileybury down at Daly Oval. The VAFA's 2 most recent Premier B champions looked an even match-up, and it proved to be. The Bloods took advantage of the breeze. They kicked 3 of the first 4 goals, got in front by a kick at the first change. The Tees then took control in the second term, got on top, pumped it inside 50, kicked the only 5 goals of the term, 25 points up at the half. Old Haileybury responded, got back within 15 points at the last change, went all the way to late in the term, and Oliver Scott kicked a wonderful goal to break the deadlock, and then Nick Hodgson finished it off in the end, a 4-goal win for Old Trinity. And joining us, one of the best men on the ground, as he has been for the Tees all season long, HUGO McGLASHAN. HUGO, thanks for your time.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having me.
What were you expecting as a group? You came up last year having won the Premier B Premiership. You step up to Premier Men's. What was the expectation internally or even privately amongst yourself? What were you thinking that the team was capable of early?
Me and Donald had a few conversations during the off-season. We lost a few of our older boys who have been leaders of our club for a while. But look, internally and within our group, obviously we're quite young, but full of confidence. I think going back down to Prem B for a few years, it was good for the club to learn how to win again. And we've come up this year. Look, we didn't really know what to expect too much. Obviously, we have a lot of confidence within ourselves, and got hit in the face pretty quickly with Uni Blues round 1. So that was a bit of a shock to the system. But credit to the boys. I think we've settled pretty well. Like I said, we're a young group, but we've played probably 3 or 4 years of consistent footy together. So, a pleasant start to the year, but, 1 week at a time.
And playing a really exciting brand of football, HUGO. For those who haven't seen much of the Tees so far this year, what does the game look like when it is on your terms?
Look, we're a pretty big handball team. We like to chain out of contests pretty well. So we've got a guy called Austin Stubbs who's been with us for a few years, and he's our brain. Basically, he's the best tactician in the VAFA, I'd say. So he goes and dissects the games pretty well for us and explains how we want to play each week. So we have a pretty clear idea of how we want to play, but fast, exciting. We're quick, and like I said, we like to handball chain and get it down to our big boys.
HUGO, congratulations on the start to the year. It's been terrific to see your boys back in Premier Men's and flying. Your style of play that you sort of described there, it feels like there's a sense of we have no fear when it comes to taking the game to the opposition. Is that how you feel it internally and how you approach games internally, that you want to do so without fear?
Yeah, I think so. I think Donald keeps it pretty simple with us. It's we don't overcomplicate our game style too much, but like I said, we've got some pretty big boys down forward, so we try and make it as quick as possible and get the other teams on transition. But look, I think, like I said, we're a young team. We've played a lot of footy together, so you almost know exactly what the next bloke next year is going to do. So it makes it pretty easy and predictable for us to just go out there and play footy.
I think the great thing, HUGO, is you're winning in different ways at the moment. What are some of the biggest lessons that the group's taken away through the first 5 games, whether it's the wins, the losses, the games in moments that you're looking to improve on?
I think the blueprint for us was definitely against old Zavs at Eley Park. So obviously that was round 2. We're coming off a loss, and I think we just went back to basics, really. So it was all about the contest, and you just got to hit every contest like it's your last and put your head over it. And, the team that wants it more in these competitions is going to get over the line, I think. So, we kind of brought that. After that game, obviously, got a bit of belief in the team, and we just kind of brought that to every game, that you just got to hit the contest as hard as you can. And once you do that, the rest will unfold.
Interesting you mentioned that. I was just about to ask you about that Zabs game, because you came off, as you said, you got smacked in the face by the Blues in the first round and might have walked away thinking, geez, I don't know where we're at. Are we going to be good enough? I watched that Zabs game live. It was one of our VAFA TV games, and your first quarter of football as a group was as good a football as I've seen played in the VAFA this year. It's hard to imagine anything better. You were just relentless out of the middle. It was a wave. 1, it looked like you were having an enormous amount of fun, but 2, that must have given you an amazing amount of belief. Hey, we actually do belong.
Yeah.
If we do what we do, no one can stop us.
Definitely. No, we like you said, we didn't really know what to expect coming into Eley Park. It's a bit of a fortress for them, and I wouldn't say it's surprising. We back ourselves in, like I said, and we've got a new player called Camille who's barely ever played any footy, and he's come down and he's playing ruck for us, and he's basically put it on a platter for us in the middle, and we back ourselves in there to win the ball too. But we definitely took a lot of belief from that game, and I think it was good for us to realise that we do belong in this competition. If we play the way we want to play, we'll take it up to any team.
Congratulations on your own form, averaging 29 touches a game. You're having a fantastic season, been picked in the Big V squad. What has that meant to you, and what are your experiences early on with half? We're just one session in.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute privilege to be a part of it. I was lucky enough to be a part of the MB team last year, so I got a bit of an understanding of how it all works. But no, it's been a good start to the year. Like I said, when you've got some pretty big boys in the ruck and some others to give you the hand, it makes your job a little bit easier, and I just get to look good. But no, the Big V. Yeah, a massive privilege. It's been really nice to go down and meet some other boys from other clubs. Everyone's been very nice and very approachable, so always good fun.
We're looking forward to Big V weekend, Hugo. But before that, a proper litmus test for you guys this week. Go down to Brighton Beach Oval to take on Old Brighton. How are you feeling ahead of that challenge?
Yeah, no, we've got some pretty dark memories from there a couple of years ago when we were in Prem last time. I think it was 2022. Like I said, like they're the benchmark. So, like I said, we're just trying to take it week by week, not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves. It's a very competitive competition. So, no, it'll be a good test for us. We'll head down there Saturday, and we know the conditions there can be pretty challenging. So, we'll definitely do our research and, yeah, hopefully have a good crack.
Difference between playing Premier B footy and Premier Men's footy. One, in terms of in-game, but two, in terms of recovery and the cumulative fatigue and energy that it takes. Hugo, what's the difference? How big is the difference?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. Like I said, I think the speed, the transition game in Prem is obviously a lot quicker than Prem B. Look, to be fair, because it's like that, it's honestly, Prem B was very congested and a lot of force in the contest, whereas the ball's pinged around a lot quicker. So your body does definitely take a bit more of a toll. So the recovery side of things is definitely big for our team, and we definitely try and press that to all the younger boys too to get involved and do your recovery. But so far, so good. We haven't had too many injuries, but yeah, no, the speed of the game is probably the biggest difference I've found.
Hugo, you touched on the big boys up top. I don't think we can go without asking. Don Payman, he's kicking goals every week. What can you tell us about what he brings to the side? But I believe he's so much more than just your lead up forward as well.
Yeah, he's an absolute character, Big Dommer. Yeah, he's been big for us for a long time, and it's good to see him kicking some goals this year. But no, he's just a presence. You can always trust him. He's also a guy you want to follow out there because he'll give it his all, and you can see in the way he plays. It's a lot of emotion. And when you see him and a few of those other boys like Boston down there, you just want to get it in there as quick as possible for them.
Surprise packets. Who should we be keeping an eye on? Players to watch, players that maybe you've looked at, Hugo, and gone, oh, geez, he's coming on at a rate of knots, or where's he come from? Or, gee, he's found another level I didn't know he had. Yeah,
look, I think our back six, to be honest, has been pure all year. But two boys that have internally been massive for us for years is Benny Littlefield and James Ingpen. They're two of our half-backers who just do the team things so well, but at the same time create so much drive off the back line for us and really get our offense going. So, yeah, those two boys, I know they're probably the early 20s now, but they're really coming on, especially last year, and they've really improved again this year, taking it to the next step. So I'll be watching out for those two for sure.
Hugo, congratulations once again on your form. Thanks for your time, mate. Best of luck for the road ahead. We can't wait to see how you go, firstly against Brighton and then pulling on the Big V in a couple of weeks.
I appreciate it. Thanks, boys, for having me.
Great to catch up with Hugo McGLASHAN, in fantastic form, having another great year. What a player he is. Spoke to Daniel Harford about him yesterday. Harf, the Big V coach, has got him in the squad. He said he's a very good player, very powerful player.
He's very exciting talent, isn't he? Especially when he's at his best. And they're the type of players you do want in those rep games. I'm not privy to selections or anything, but just those match winners, because you need guys that are going to have moments, because the high quality guys, they're going to find the footy. They're going to link up. But it's those sort of guys that can maybe kick one or two quickly that can turn a game.
Yep, make something happen out of nothing. And Old Trinity, what a great story. 4 straight wins.
Yeah, terrific. Always great when you've got a team coming up from the division below and they rattle the cage early. What a great story it is for them to be sitting in the top 4 after 5 games. In a long way to go, but they couldn't have been more impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, they're winning in different ways as well, which is always a great sign for a young team like Donald McDonald's unit. Well, let's look around the rest of Premier Men's now. William Buck Premier Men's for round 5. And Old Brighton returned to the winners list. They prevailed in the grand final final rematch over Old Scotch at Camberwell Sports Ground. The Cardinals actually started brightly. They had the breeze. They kicked the only 2 goals of a tight and tough opening term. The Tunners then clicked into gear early with the win at their backs in the second quarter. Felix Flockhart kicked 3 goals in the opening 8 minutes. Then he kicked another 2 in 2.5 minutes early in time on. 5 goals for the quarter for Felix Flockhart from his 6 disposals and 5 marks. And Matty, you're at this game. Every contender this season, seems like they're going to need to have that at least one difference-making forward who can just take a tight game and rip it away from the opposition. And Felix provided a timely reminder that in the absence of Will Lewis, of course, who's no longer at Old Brighton, he's now at the Western Bulldogs in the AFL, which is a wonderful story, that Felix can more than adequately fill that role for Old Brighton.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The game revolved around Felix Flockhart for pretty much the entirety of the match. If he wasn't taking marks and kicking goals, he was bringing it to ground, and then his teammates were crumbing it and kicking goals. He played a direct hand in the first 8 goals that Old Brighton kicked, either marking it or setting it up directly. He was such an important figure in that forward line. And now that they've got Josh Carr in the ruck, that means that Felix Flockhart can spend more time up forward. And when he's able to do that, he can have quarters like he did in that second term where he was just unplayable.
Yeah, that versatility is so big, especially in modern footy. I think the ruckman is almost the most important position at this sort of level, because if you've got someone, whether it's old school, allows your midfield to dominate, or someone like Felix to go away and like watching some of those highlights, that is the best corridor of footy I think I've seen this year by an individual. Like, to kick 5 goals, it's almost unheard of. It's a video game type numbers.
Old Brighton kicked 6-3 to 1 goal to hit half-time with a 22-point lead as a result. The Cardinals needed a response with the wind. It was Old Scotch. They kicked 5 goals to 1 in that third term. Spencer's second goal at the 24-minute mark actually put the Cards back in front, so it was a good performance from them to fight back. They headed to the final change with a 1-kick lead, but the Tunners, we knew, was going to have the breeze in the final term. They rose to the challenge. They found another gear, Matty, as this group so often does. They kicked 5 goals in 9 minutes, cracked the game open. In the end, went on to win by 18 points. Their 4th straight win over the Cardinals since falling to them in the grand final of 24.
Yeah, no, it was a very impressive performance from the Tunners, as you said, who were challenged at times in that game. And having to come from behind at 3/4 time is never an easy thing to do, even for a reigning Premier side. But they just flexed their muscle. They had dominance out of the centre in the last quarter. They got it inside 50 and they got it. Deep entries as well, which makes a big difference. Harry Hill stood up, kicked an important goal. Jamie Hope got a beauty out of the centre clearance as well, and just went on to a big win in the end. They had the advantage of the breeze, but they still proved that they are the team to beat in 2026.
There wasn't a lot in the game statistically, was there? I mean, the major discrepancies that stood out on the stat sheet, plus 12 clearance count for Old Brighton, and maybe more tellingly, 59-38 tackle count, which just illustrated their ability to go harder for longer for all 4 quarters.
Yeah, no, defensively in that last term, they were outstanding. They didn't give Old Scotch a look in when the game was really up for grabs. And I would suggest that most of that clearance dominance came off the back of Josh Carr, who was just terrific in the ruck. And as I said, was able to sort of do that for most of the game. But then when it really counted in the last term, they went into overdrive out of the middle, Old Brighton.
So Old Brighton retain top spot on percentage. Next up, they'll face another potential contender. What a game this will be. They host Old Trinity at Fortress Brighton, while the undermanned Cardinals, 1-4, face a crunch game. They head to TH King to face great rivals, St Kevin's, who are in fantastic form. So another win for Old Brighton. They're back on the winners list. Marcel Broom, what did he have to say?
Said it was a high-pressure game, which you would expect from 2 great sides, and he was just really pleased that they were able to take momentum back. As we touched on, Old Scotch got the lead, and despite the breeze, you still got to win that momentum back. These are 2 sides that I don't think wind really makes a difference. Their systems are so strong, so pay credit to that. He was really pleased with Campbell Tweedy. He's been terrific through the first 5 games. Just that intercept mark, we all know how good he is. Touched on Felix Flockhart. And he loved Harry Hill's game. We all know what to expect from Harry. Just super clean, contest to contest, and just drove him forward, and that's where Flockhart prevailed.
I'm glad he mentioned Campbell Tweedy. He could have easily won out a player of the game. Felix Flockhart probably won the game for Old Brighton, but Campbell Tweedy saved it with a number of intercept marks and clearances out of the back line, particularly in that final term. He was awesome for the Tunners.
He's having a super year, Campbell Tweedy, and rightly so. He's in the Big V squad. Matty, from a Mark Nat perspective, Old Scotch, they're hanging in, but they're 1-4.
Yeah, no, it's been a tricky month, and Mark Nat said that there were certainly some areas that they had to address going into the game, given their form leading into it, and it was great to see the improvement and the growth. Even though they didn't get the win, he was happy with the way that they fought it out all day and got some reward for effort. Reserved praise for Henry Brown, who was terrific through the midfield against a pretty star-studded Old Brighton midfield. And Charlie Cormack, again, particularly to set the tone early, was excellent across halfback for the Cardinals.
as he always is. Well, old Zabs ultimately saw off a persistent University Blues in a clash between second and third at Melbourne Uni Oval. The hosts dominated territory early, the Blues. They kicked the first 2 and the last 2 goals of the opening term. They led by 14 points at the first change. Then Zabs responded with the first 2 goals of the second quarter, got back within a kick. Then they kicked the last 3 of the opening half. So they led by a kick, did old Zabs at halftime. Campbell Lane was on a heater. He had 26 touches to halftime, was just running right. And then if you watch the third quarter of this game, Brayden, they were so impressive, old Zabs. They went in, as we mentioned, leading by a kick, but this game was sort of in the balance, and Blues probably had the advantage of the breeze in the third term. But they just controlled the game, Zabs. They did it, and they didn't necessarily put it all on the scoreboard at once, but they just controlled the game. They were so mature the way they went about it. Relentless pressure. They had great structure behind the footy. They eventually got goals to Woodhouse and Delaney, got the lead out to 20 points. Then the Blues fought back. They stabilised to begin with, and then ate into the deficit a little bit with a couple of late goals. It was back to 12 points at the last huddle. And then back to 6 points early in the last term when Curran kicked a goal. He kicked a goal on either side of the break. So it was 6 points of difference early in the last quarter. The Blues had all the momentum, and you're thinking, hey, they might actually run over the top of them here. But old Zabs, again, we speak about their maturity and their composure and their poise. Turned into an arm wrestle for the next 12 minutes. No goals either way. But in the end, it was the Zabs who ultimately broke the deadlock. Big Oscar Duncan, who had a great day, kicked 4 goals. He rode the pack, kicked a goal. 3 minutes later, Jack O'Sullivan, who's committed to Zabs permanently now. He's not going to play at Port Melbourne anymore. He ran into a goal, stormed through the arc, kicked a goal, made it 17 points. James Stewart kept the Blues alive, made it 10 points entering time on, but then Zabs finished with 3 late goals. Got it out to 30 points. The teams ended up with the same number of scoring shots, but in the end, it was Zabs' strike power. Just was telling. They took 14 marks inside 50 to 5. McIsaac took 7 and Duncan took 3. So we always talk about Grimley and Stewart at one end, but on the weekend it was McIsaac and Duncan at the other end, kicked 8 goals between them.
It's just really exciting. I think it goes to show why we've spoken so highly of Zabs throughout this early stages of this season and in pre-season. They just got winners across the park. And again, like to hold that 2-headed monster 2 goals apiece, 4 goals between them is still a handy turnaround, especially in modern footy. Like the big forwards, they're not kicking their 7, 8s anymore, really. So it's a great result. But yeah, old Zabs, they're just firing on all cylinders. And you touched on O'Sullivan coming back. I think Ollie Seston's coming back full time as well.
Alwyn Davies playing for them. They've just got stars all over the place. They're looking really good.
And they've got guys still to come back into the side.
Yep.
Including
Stavrou and Fisher, a couple of handy Woodrow medalists over the last couple of years.
It's a really exciting time. And I guess the question goes to Blues. They're not too far off. We spoke about they probably need to win a couple of these games against Scob and Zabs to really have us believe in what they're doing. They're not far away. So I think when we get around for the second round of fixtures and what they can do if they beat them, then I think Blues will still be in the mix.
Campbell Lane must be in Woodrow medal calculation at this stage of the year. As we mentioned, he had 26 in the first half. He finished with 47 touches, 18 contested, and 12 clearances.
He's been a very good player for a very long period of time, but it does feel like he's taken his game to another level this year, which not a lot of people would have expected that there was another level that he could go to, but his form so far in 2026 has been outstanding, leading from the front. And he's been critical for Old Xavier getting off to a good start this season. And yes, probably rightly one of the leading candidates for the medal so far this year.
And genuinely an inside-outside midfielder. We know at VFL level and even early on in his VAFA career when he came back, he was mainly sort of playing on the wing and just covering 1,000,000 miles a game, going up and back and working hard in both directions. But as I just mentioned, he had 12 clearances to go with his 47 touches.
Which is a huge amount, and especially 18 contested. And it wasn't a wet day. It wasn't a really contested day for footy. There was a bit of breeze, but that doesn't mean stoppage after stoppage. So to get first use and be able to get those hands out that we probably might not see until you really watch the game back, and it just breaks the game open for some of the more skillful users on their side.
Will Goss, great again, another 32 touches for him, 7 rebounds. Alwyn Davey, 26 disposals, 3 goal assists. We know how creative he can be. Brad Ebert worked hard all day for the Blues. He'll be a difference maker in the back half. Matt Smith, was hoping for that. He had 29 touches, 8 rebound 50s. Significant win for Zabs. They kick a game clear of the Blues in the race for the top 2. They'll host St Bernard's at Toorak Park this coming weekend, while the Blues head to Princes Park. Big game to tackle Old Haileybury now. Blues and Haileybury, that's a huge game. They'll be keen to return to the winners list after back-to-back defeats. Let's start with Dan Donardi and Zabs. They're rolling.
Yeah, he just kept it simple. Quality game against quality opposition, tight contest, and both sides looked to have the goods when they went ahead. So it was just a game of momentum. He was pleased they played some great footy, and they just set themselves up to deliver in a big game. So, yeah, he said both sides should be commended for the way they played that game, and I think that's what you love to see, a high-quality game at this time of year.
Matty Smith at Uni Blues.
Yeah, well, he acknowledged that the Zabs have a very clear brand of footy, and the difference is that they were just able to execute it for longer than they were. They turned the ball over in more dangerous positions, and they capitalised on those opportunities. Blues had a lot of inside 50 entries and a lot of opportunities to kick a goal, but they just weren't able to convert. 9-16 was their final score in the end. So they'll continue to focus on the ball movement and the execution of being able to make the most of those opportunities. It gave a shout out to Jez Goddard, though, who was terrific around the ground and hard at the footy all day. It was very important for the Blues, though.
Yeah, they've got a big game coming up this week as they try to they've got away to a flying start and back-to-back defeats. They need to go and make a bit of a statement this week against Old Haileybury. What a game that's going to be. Well, University Blacks have strung back-to-back wins together after grinding their way to a hard-fought victory over St Bernard's at the Snake Pit. The home team won the toss. They kicked with a stiff breeze. They kicked 4 goals to 1 and led by 19 points at quarter time, did the Dogs. Blacks then had their chance with the win. They kicked 6 goals of their own, including 3 in 3.5 minutes midway through the term. Kicked another couple in time on, were 12 points up at half-time. Third quarter, all important. Snow Dogs kicked 3 of the first 4 goals, got within a point late in the term, but the Blacks got a Zane Cordy goal at the 26-minute mark, got back out to 8 points. Plus, the Blacks still had the lead, the breeze as well in the last quarter to come home with. Dogs weren't done yet, though. Big Ladies' Day home crowd erupted as 17-year-old debutant Jonathan Ganachia rolled through a clever goal in front of the grandstand, made it a 2-point game once again. The home crowd were up and about. Next 15 minutes were tight and tense. Nothing between the two teams. The Blacks kicked 3 behind. Zane Cordy stepped up to swing the game in the Blacks' favour. Matty Grocott squared it beautifully from the boundary line. Cordy took a mark at the top of the goal square, kicked a goal, got out the back again, took a mark, 15 out, kicked another goal, and that pretty much was all she wrote for St Bernard's. James Clark added 1 at the end. So it made it 25 points in the end, but that's deceptively large. This game was much closer than that all day. It was in a couple of kicks heading into time on in the last term. Paddy Smith continued his brilliant start to the season, the 26-year-old from Cobden we spoke about last week with James Clark. Another 30 disposals, 19 contested and 9 clearances. And Zane Cordy, 22 disposals, 8 marks, 5 tackles, 4 clearances and 4 goals. We spoke about the influence earlier of players who are able to step up like Felix Flockhart. Well, it feels like Zane Cordy could be the guy for the Blacks.
Yeah, and he's had a terrific start to the season as well, playing mostly in the forward line, but has kicked bags of goals whenever he's played. I think he's only missed 1 game so far this year, so he's been a really important asset for the Blacks in that forward line. And say, if you can get a key forward who can kick big bags of goals, and we talked about the 2-headed monster with Stewart and Grimley. When you can get them in the forward line kicking goals, Brayden, they make a big difference for the rest of your team.
Yeah, they certainly do. And what I love about Cordy, there's going to be times where he'll be up forward, he might kick 4 or 5, but they'll be kicking into a breeze and he'll get thrown behind the footy. And it's a great skill to have. It's a weapon that you can't teach as well. I guess you see forwards go back to learn to be a forward at higher levels, but
he's been through all that. He's done it.
Exactly. So he is going to be a top level recruit, and these sort of games where they're needing to find a way to win, they've obviously won 2 straight now. And I don't know, he's just a difference maker. And once they get on a run, and like Paddy Smith's a massive shout out as well. He
could be recruit of the year at the moment. Pretty close. We talked about Darcy Churgwin last year standing out as a recruit of the year at Premier Men's as a guy who's a little bit older and mature player coming in. Well, as you mentioned, Paddy's 26 and he's come in and made a huge difference.
And what really helps, he's helped replace Kane Loftus, who's obviously playing a lot of VFL footy with Richmond. Might almost play AFL this weekend with the injuries at the Tigers. So to get a like-for-like replacement there is huge, because when you lose someone of that quality, it doesn't always come with a direct replacement. Uni
Blacks win back-to-back games. They're within a game of the top 4 now. They'll face a stern test when they visit Scob, who have won their last 3. The Snow Dogs 1 and 4. They're left to rue another game that sort of slipped through their fingers late. They try to snap their 8-game losing streak on the road this week, and it's not going to be easy. They'll face Old Zabs at Toorak Park. That's coming up. So let's have a listen to the 2 coaches. Firstly, we'll start with the winner, Dale Bauer at Uni Blacks.
Yeah, well, he acknowledged that it's never easy going to the Snake Pit and winning there, and his entire coaching career, he can't recall having an easy game out there, so he was pleased to get the win. Definitely acknowledged the breeze, and it was worth about 3 to 4 goals at one end of the ground. They navigated things well enough going into it and playing into it, and were far better in the third term when defending into the win, and it put them in a decent position. You've got the lead at 3/4 time and kicking with the win in the final term. It sets things up quite nicely for you, and they were able to finish things off in the final term. But the game never felt safe.
That's true. Steve Alessio, St Bernard's.
It's simple. They need to get cracking over the next month. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in a relegation battle in that bottom half of the ladder. So the only positive is the season's so open. there's still so much footy to play. He said at times their style of play looked like it was going well, the movement was good, but then he just said Uni Blues, they just know how to stay in the contest. We've spoken about that all season with the opposition coaches. He liked a few of the younger brigade, and he also gave a shout out to Matt Foley, a recruit out of the EDFL.
Yeah, he can play, Matt Foley. I've seen him play a fair bit of VFL footy. He's a really good player.
He's the type of player that could change their whole dynamic with their ball movement. His foot skills are as good as I've seen at local level.
Yeah, no, he's an outstanding footballer, so he could be a real difference maker. And we talk about it, the competition's just so even this year. It's going to keep coming back to these difference makers. Each team's going to have those 1 or 2 stars, and at the moment it feels like it's a bit of a key forward league at Premier Men's right now. The guys who are stepping up are the big blokes who can just rip a game apart with a bunch of goals in a short period of time to take a tight game and bust it open.
Which is a bit of a shock, because I reckon the big modern full forward that probably I've grown up with, everyone's grown up with, even AFL local.
It's a bit of a dying breed.
Yeah. They have, but it's great to see them making a comeback because they're much more exciting than these smalls that run around and annoy everyone.
Makes it interesting for Ton Watch, which we'll get to shortly, thanks to Sharon. Well, the final game of the weekend in William Buck Premier Men's, much more competitive performance from Caulfield Grammarians. They were ultimately overrun in the last term by the informed St Kevin's, who are growing in confidence. They've had 3 straight wins, Scob now. Windy conditions made finishing a really difficult proposition. The teams kicked 3-10 between them in the opening term. The Fields headed to the first break with a 6-point lead. Scob then put their foot down in the second quarter. They kicked 6 unanswered goals. Their intercept game just pinned the Fields in their own back half. Caulfield's cause wasn't helped. They lost 2 players before half-time, and that certainly hampered their rotations later in the game. They were 33 points down at half-time. We've heard Paul Sadley in the last couple of weeks make some pleas for his team to return to the DNA of grit and resilience. And the question was, would that be heeded this week? The answer was yes. The Fields harnessed the breeze. Didn't quite take full toll again, though. They were left to sort of rue missed opportunities. They had 20 inside 50s to 8 in the third term with the breeze, but only kicked 4-8 to 1-2. Make that 8 goals for it, and suddenly it's a very different game. The gap was down to 9 points at the last change, but they weren't able to get their noses in front. If they had kicked straight, they might have found themselves a couple of goals up, and then the whole dynamic of the game can change. Scob could get jittery. But in the end, Scob finished with the wind in their sails. They kicked 6 goals to 2 in the last term, got away to a 34-point win. Again, one of those games where it felt larger on the scoreboard than it did in general play. The game was closer than this, but the Fields just didn't quite finish their work. St Kevin's did. That was the difference between the teams. Just 4 scoring shots between them in the end, separating them. But in the end, it was a 34-point margin. Jack Marnie, 34 touches, 12 clearances. Andrew Matheson had 32, 10 rebound 50s, 6 inside 50s, worked hard. Angus Hart, 20 disposals, had a great game, and Sam Tucker kicked another 3. Jack Elwood led from the front for Caulfield with 29 touches. Oscar Roberts had 28, Noah Sutherland 27. They both worked their backsides off in the back half as well. So Scob will go hunting a 4th straight win when they return home to host Old Scotch in a huge game at TH King this week. The 1 and 4 Fields just as keen to avoid a 4th straight loss. They'll visit the Blacks at Melbourne Uni. Let's start with Scob, Anthony Plugger Lynch.
Yeah, well, Plugger was happy to get the win, but not necessarily happy with the performance. Wasn't at all happy with the way they played. He thought Caulfield's intensity and work rate were better than what St Kevin's produced, which was disappointing for him to admit. They were relying on passengers of individual play and brilliance to be able to get them the result over the weekend, which is not what they want to be relying on to get the 4 points. It gave credit to Caulfield for the way that they fought out the match. As you said, 2 players down at half-time. It could have easily got pretty ugly after that, but the Fields did really well to fight the match out right to the final siren.
From a Caulfield perspective, we talk about honourable losses. Coaches don't like to talk about honourable losses, but they had every excuse this week, Caulfield, after being blown off the park the last couple of weeks. Paul Sadley put it on them and said, hey, we want to get back to being gritty and resilient. That's what makes us us. They could have turned it up in the second half, a couple of men down. They didn't. They fought it out.
Yeah, they didn't this week. The response was really key. Sats described their performance the last couple of weeks as below par, and I think it was probably fair when you look at the scoreboard. He was happy with how they responded, and the good thing is they're going to start getting some soldiers back. It's going to make such a difference. So Jack Elwood, the skipper, was excellent on ball. Will Vesely played his best game of the year, and Oscar Roberts, he's having a great year after stepping up from Premier with the Fields.
That wraps up William Buck Premier Men's for round 5. After the break, we'll talk Premier B Men's. That's next on For the Love of the Game. The VAFA Rising Star Award recognises the competition's most talented young players. Each week, the VAFA Rising Star Committee receives nominations for 1 male and 1 female player aged 20 years or under who played no more than 7 senior games before this season. Our overall season winners will be declared the VAFA Rising Stars for 2026. So if your club has a young gun making their mark, nominate them now at media@vafa.com.au. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk Prem B men's. And, well, Matthew Donald coming into round 5 in the first month of football, I think you'd picked 6 out of 20 in Premier B, and you were very much under the pump. And this was going to go one of two ways on the weekend. You didn't quite get it perfect, but you went close.
No, I got very close. 4 out of 5, I think it was for Prem B. So no,
you think it was. You were hanging on these tips all weekend. You were your phone. You were hitting refresh on your around the ground so much. Talk us through it. The one you didn't get was the upset in your mind. Ajax getting up.
Yes, this continues a great story. What's been a great story for Ajax so far in 2026, coming up from Prem C. Big win over Williamstown CYMS. I don't think anyone expected this. A 37-point win for the Jackers. 14-8. 92 to 7-13-55. They got off to a hot start. They kicked 3 goals in the first 8 minutes, and the league was rarely threatened from there. It hovered around that 3 to 4 goal for margin for most of the game before they kicked away late in the final term. The standout performer for the Jackers was Jordan Cohen. He kicked 6 goals, and he's back in his first game for the Jackers since round 1, so he's kicked 10 goals in his 2 games so far in 2026. So when he is playing for the Jackers, he's proving a real threat forward. There's a massive logjam of teams that are sitting on a 3-2 record now. Ajax are one of them. They've moved up to 3rd spot on the ladder, which is a great story given where they came from last year after the opening 5 games of the season. 3-2 record, same as Williamstown CYs, who dropped to 6th place on the ladder with a positive win-loss record. Goes to show how
it's just the same as last year, isn't it? One loss can drop you down 3 or 4 spots, and a win can do the opposite.
No, this is going to be a terrific season again, and we're going to get to that last game of the season. It feels like it's going to be all to play for a whole bunch of teams. Lockie Buzzard was really pleased with the way that the players played out the match. He said it was a really consistent 4-quarter effort across the board. It's a really young group, so there's going to be lapses and there's going to be periods of time where they don't quite click and get it right. And pointed to the second quarter against D-La last week, which cost them the game. So he was just most happy with the fact that they were able to play 4 quarters. And when there were times when the CYs looked to maybe threaten a way back into the match, that they just shut the door and managed to come away with a win. For Contazoglu, the CYs coach, he said it was a slow start that cost them. He said they were completely outplayed in that opening stanza. They got out the blocks early. They kicked the first 3 goals, and that was sort of where it sat for most of the day. He said they were persistent. We were persistent, he said, but they were resilient, were Ajax. And the game management was really good, and they were able to stop any momentum that Williamstown threatened to sort of bring back into the contest.
So it's a sign of a healthy league, the VAFA, when you've got a team that's come down from Premier Men's playing against a team that's come up from Premier C the previous year. So last year there were two sections between De La Salle and Beau Morris. They played on the weekend. It ended up being an 8-point game, which shows just how close the competition is right through Premier, really. Didn't look that close at half-time, though. De La Salle kicked 12-2-74 to 5-8-38. They led by 6 goals and looked to be cruising. What happened?
Yeah, well, it was a grandstand finish, really, from the Sharks, wasn't it? You, as you said, you thought the game was probably safe at 3-quarter time. De La, 36 points up. Certainly didn't feel that way. There was a definite breeze that the Sharks were kicking with in the final term, and that allowed them to get themselves back into the contest, but they just weren't accurate enough in front of goal. Final score 14-6-90 to 11-16-82. So in the end, it was at 27 scores to 20.
It's been a constant theme so far across the weekend, hasn't it? Just got to take your chances.
It has. You've got to make the most of it. A couple of reasonable bags at both ends of the ground. Luke Healy, he's had a good start to the season. He kicked another 4 goals for De-La. Aidan McCarthy for the Sharks, he also kicked 4 goals. So it was Healy and McCarthy at opposite ends of the ground. As far as what it means for the ladder, De-La move up to 4th spot, so they're still in the top 4. Beau Morris dropped to 7th. That's now their 3rd defeat in a row. For them. De-La coach Nick Hyland, he managed to uproot Tom, so Nick is back in the hot seat feeling a lot better. I think the last quarter of last week scared Tom a little bit, so Nick's quite happy to take over. And he was really happy with the second quarter. He said that was probably the best footy that De-La played for the entire season. They managed the ball really well. They defended into the breeze, but they were also able to capitalise on the scoreboard. So it was just about the perfect second quarter for a team defending into the breeze. And as for Josh Burke, the Sharks coach, he just said it was a couple of critical moments that cost them the match. It's been a frustrating couple of weeks. They did a lot right, but they've not been able to get the result on the scoreboard in the last 3 weeks. They missed some shots on goal. They gave away a couple of critical 50-metre penalties. And when you have those lapses in a game, you can ultimately pay the price. And that was what did it for the Sharks in the end.
And speaking of sides that probably aren't are going a lot better. Old Melburnians, they've just snuck up the ladder. They're 3-2 all of a sudden after another great win.
Yeah, they had a slow start to the season, the OMs, but just the last few weeks, James Burns' men's been able to just click things into
first year
gear a little
coach,
bit.
just to take maybe take just a little bit of time to bed the game plan in.
Yeah, well, that's been the real focus. It's about systems and structure for James Burns. That's what he's really wanted to try and implement with his team, and that takes a bit of time when you're bringing in a new system. We're just starting to see that come to the fore now for the OMs, and they managed to get off to a good start. They led by 16 points at the first break, and that's really where the margin sat at for the rest of the match. 13-point win in the end against Old Geelong, 13-9-87 to 11-18-74. Tell you what, the midfield battle, it was a bit of Fife and Dangerfield back in the day. Ned Nichols, 36 disposals and 2 goals for the hosts. Cooper Hayes for Geelong, 33 possessions and 16 clearances.
Great
Phenomenal battle in the midfield. That for the OMs, they now move up to 5th spot. With that win, and after having lost the first 2 games of the season, they'll be pretty happy with that. Geelong remain at the bottom of the ladder with just 1 win to their lane, but they're only percentage away from climbing out of the relegation zone, so still very, very close in terms of the bottom reaches of the ladder. James Byrne, we've talked about him a couple of times. He was pleased again with how the structures held up against a competitive opponent. He said it felt like they were in control for most of the game. They didn't capitalise when they need to. But the good thing about playing with a system is that if there's parts of the game that aren't really working and you're not quite got control of, a good process can keep you in the game for longer, and that's what proved to be the difference for OMs. Nick Dixon was really happy with the result despite defeat. He said it was a good game of footy with good passages of play. It was probably just a 20-minute patch in the second term when they had the breeze that cost them. They conceded a run of 4 goals in that latter part of the second term, which proved to be the difference in the end, as we say, a 13-point margin in the end.
Old Carey 15-14, 104 defeated Old Camberwell 7-8-50, a 9-goal win for the Panthers out at Bull Lane.
Well, we talked about it in Premier Men's, how there were a couple of games where the margin didn't really reflect the balance of the play, and you could argue we should add this one to the pile as well. The Panthers led by just 10 points at three-quarter time, and in the end they kicked 8 goals in the final term. Comfortable win in the end, 15-14, 104 to 7-8-50, but that's not a true reflection on the way that this game played out for most of the day. Riley Thompson kicked 4 goals for the Panthers. Eley Park kicked 3. For Luke Giles, he was really happy with the team performance. He felt like the forward half connection was really good. It was able to get the ball linked up from midfield to the forward line more often, which gave them some more opportunities. And for the Wells, they would have been happy with the 3 quarters that they did play, but they just weren't able to keep it together in that final term.
And the Collegians juggernaut just keeps rolling on. 2 games clear at the top of the ladder now. And what I noticed in this game, no Frost, no Lukic.
No Pinchbeck.
No Pinchbeck.
Yep.
They still win comfortably with a new name popping up amongst the goals.
Yes, well, if Lukic doesn't get you, D'Amico will. So 17-8, 110 to 8-7-55 was the final margin. Pretty close opening quarter, but a 6-goal-to-1 second term for the Lions broke things open, and that's how they were able to build their win. Will D'Amico, 7 goals. He kicked just the 7. For him,
best performance by D'Amico since the '82 Grand Final.
Very good from you, Jace. Yes, we
Google it if you're too young to remember.
He was very good, and in the absence of Lukic and Pinchbeck and Frost, as you say, the fact that they've still got players who can go and kick 7 gives you a bit of an indication on how strong their depth is. For the Lions, they're still unbeaten. They're 2 games clear atop the table now, 5 and zip and percentages, miles better than anyone else in the competitions. They still look like the team to beat. How about this with Old Camberwell, though? They are level with, or Old Ivanhoe rather, they're level with Old Camberwell. The bottom of the ladder. They're both on 1 win, and they both got the exact same percentage of 71.46. We've had to go to the 3rd decimal place to split the teams, and it's Old Camberwell who lead by 0.0053% after round 5.
That pretty much sums up Premier B every year, doesn't it?
That's it right there. I tell you what, it'd be much more interesting if at round 18 we'd be getting out the calculators and furiously trying to figure out who's actually in
They'll
front.
be sitting there on the boundary line with their abacuses in the afternoon, trying to work out who's sitting where. So the ladder, let's run through it quickly. As you mentioned, Collegians 5 and zip. They're 2 games clear now. They're 188, their percentage. They're 5 and zip. Then there's 5 teams that are currently sitting on 12 points. Old Carey, Ajax, De La Salle, Old Melburnians and Williamstown, who sit 6th at the moment at 3 and 2. 1 game back is Beau Morris, and then, as you mentioned, the 3 teams on the bottom at 1 and 4, Old Ivanhoe, Old Camberwell and Old Geelong. It's going to be another tight year in Prem B, isn't it? Another tipping nightmare for you.
Yes, no, it will be. And we know that this is a really even competition. And just looking at the fixture this week, and we'll get to it in tips, no doubt, this is the 8-point games have already started, and we're not even a third of the way through the season. There's some really important games that you feel are going to be quite telling come the end of the season. And they start this week. Normally don't get them in the first half of the season, but they're coming around already this year.
That is Premier B for round 5. After the break, we'll talk Premier C men's. We'll talk men's divisional as well. That's next on For the Love of the Game. VAFA Media has risen to another level in 2026 with more live stream and radio coverage coming away every Saturday. Enjoy our award-winning VAFA SEN Match of the Day radio call on vafa.com.au and the SEN app from 1:45. Plus a host of Premier Men's matches and our Under-19 Premier Match of the Round streaming every week on Community TV. Along with more live and free matches from Premier Men's and Premier Women's streaming on vafa.com.au than ever before. And don't forget that every game from Premier Men's, Premier B, Premier C and Premier Women's can be enjoyed on demand in full every week at vafa.com.au. Saturdays are for the VAFA. Catch the action live on the VAFA website, Community TV and the SEN app. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Let's talk Premier C men's. Brayden May always keeps a very close eye on this. Let's run through our results from round 5. We're going to start with Hampton Rovers. Great win for them over Mazenod, 14-15-99. Defeated Mazenod 7-10-52. 47 points, the final margin at Central Reserve.
Yeah, really good result for Rovers. They obviously came into the year having on the back of an 18-game losing streak, maybe even 19-game losing streak, I think we're at. And
yeah, that's right, because they lost the first game of this year too, didn't they? I think they lost 18 and 19.
Yeah, something like that. It feels like that long ago because they've turned around the form. But new coach Paul Carrigan, he's just loving the investment in the youth and what they're doing. One thing you touched on in this win, Harry Ockerby, so he's the under-19s captain, but he's played the last few weeks in the seniors. He kicked 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of this game and just absolutely turned it on its head. So a really good starter. He's a name worth keeping an eye on. And so is Tom Kite. He's a young fella, big man mountain at 19. He's come across from Old Brighton. He's just having a field day this season. He kicked 10 goals already, 3 on the weekend, but the best thing for the Rovers was everyone in the 22 had their moments in this win, and the Nodders winning streak comes to an end. So, yeah, it's a really exciting time for Hampton Rovers. When you go a whole year winless, Matty, the bottom could have fallen out, but they've rejuvenated the place. The reserves are doing a great job. His assistant coach, Michael Brown, he gave a really good shout-out to him. He's taking the real technical approach, while Paul spends a lot more time with the man management, which is such a key part in coaching these days, especially with young fellas that might be thinking, am I producing enough at senior level? And he loves what Nick Jackson's doing in the under-19s as well. So the Rovers are flying, and it's good to see.
Fitzroy now go a game clear on top. They keep on rolling. They're 5 and zip. 19-19, 133. Defeated Ormond 7-8-50. In the end, the Roy boys at home by 83 points in a huge result. Parkdale, speaking of big wins, 21 goals, 21-46. Beat Pegs 5-5-35. 111 points there. What a game this one must have been at Harry McDonald Oval. Old Peninsula, 16-11, 107. Defeated Marcelin 15-12, 102. A 31-goal shootout in the end, Peninsula getting home by 5 points.
Oh, no, that's absolutely what you want. This game was neck and neck right throughout. Scores level at three-quarter time. Had it gone on for another 2 or 3 minutes, Marcelin could have taken out the game. It was one of those ones that you didn't want to end. It was a beauty.
And then St Bede's Mentone Tigers go on their merry way. Big win for them as well. 16-goal win over Glenara Old McKinnon in, what do you call it, the forward/cup?
The forward/cup. So St Bede's Mentone, the holders of the forward/cup.
A little bit of extra silverware in the cabinet for the moment. 17-16, 118. Defeated Glenara Old McKinnon 2-10-22. So 96 points, the final margin there. A massive win for the Tigers. So Fitzroy sit on top of Premier C. They are 5 and zip. They're now a game clear of 3 teams at 4 and 1. Parkdale Vultures, Hampton Rovers and Mazenod. 1 game further back to St Bede's at 3 and 2. And then a bit of a gap, 2 games back to a bunch of teams at 1 and 4. And the race again for relegation in this is going to be very interesting towards the back end of the year. 5 teams all at 1 and 4. Marcelin, Ormond, Pegs, Glenara, Old McKinnon and Old Peninsula. So right now, unlike a lot of the sections that we're seeing, Brayden, this one's kind of split in 2 at the moment. You've got your top 5 and your bottom 5.
2-game gap between 5th and 6th already. And I think based on the results we've already seen, and it's going to make exciting to talk about for the rest of the season in both ends of the ladder. But yeah, again, stranger things have happened. We could be made to look silly in a few weeks' time.
We're made to look silly regularly on a weekly basis. That's part of the reason we're here. Let's talk Division 1. There was another thriller at Toorak Park on the weekend. Oakley 13-5-83 defeated Paran 13-3-81. So some great kicking from both teams. In the end, the Crushers managing to sneak home by a couple of points.
Yeah, and I think it's a great result for their confidence as well. Like, they're such a young team. When you compare these sides side by side, Oakley, super young, probably an average age of 20 per annum. They've got some experienced footballers. They've been in this position before. They've won a premiership only 2 years ago. So, yeah, the Crushers came away with a really good win. But what I'm loving is they're putting up scores. They haven't kicked below 78 this year. And when we discussed that Luke Ashen had departed, the gun full forward, who could arguably play at any level in this competition, I think, we thought, where are the goals going to come from? But a young star, Rogan Kitts, he kicked 6 on the weekend, but he's just one that's bobbing up. So they're going really well, the Crushers. So speaking of Coach Chris Warner, he just said the key difference is this year, it's not about education like it was last year. They got relegated. It was about resetting, understanding what they've got. But this year, they're like, no, we want to win, and this is how we do it. How to win the right way, how to swing momentum and things like that.
There were some incredible results in Division 1 over the weekend. It was an amazing round of football. Matty, you want to take us around the grounds? Because some of these are well worth talking about. We're going to talk to Senchi shortly in his new segment, Sench Watch. There's a couple of games in here that I'm sure will get mentioned, but let's just touch on the results to begin with. We can pick them apart with Sench.
Yeah, we can. The absolute shootout at Ferndale Park is always a good place to start. Parkside against St Mary's Salesian. St Mary's Salesian 16-703, you reckon? Yeah,
that's a good winning score.
Good score. We definitely can't lose in that situation. And if we do, it's not by a lot. They lost by 72 points.
They lost by 12 goals and they kicked 16-7, 103.
Parkside, 27-13, 175. Absolutely filled their boots. So that
43 goals in that game.
Absolutely a tough day for the defenders all around. Q, a big win as well over Old Yarra Cobras, 22-18, 150-7-3, 45, 105-point win there for Q. Monash Blues against UHSVU. Monash Blues 9-16-70. UHSVU 10-10-70. Monash Blues kicked the last 3 behinds of the match to tie things up. So a draw, bet we don't have another one of those this weekend. And then the final game, Preston Bull Ants, a 14-point win over Brunswick, 10-14, 74-8, 12-60.
So some incredible results there in Division 1. So here's the ladder 5 weeks in. We've got Preston Bull Ants undefeated on top of the table. They are 5 and zip. They're 1 game clear of Parkside and Oakley. Another game back to Paran and St Mary's Salesian sitting in 5th. 1 game back to Q in 6th. They're 2 and 3. 1 and 3 are Brunswick with a bye. UHSBU also on 6 points. Monash Blues on 4. And Old Yarra Cobras yet to win a game. As we turn our attention to Division 2, Brayden.
Yeah, and there were some great results here. Elstonwick got an 11-9, 75 to 18-66 win over Powerhouse just across the road here at Elstonwick Park, number 2. So an end of an unbeaten run for Powerhouse. And then in the result of the weekend for me in this division, Aquinas, 15-10-100, got the better of Canterbury, 14-14-98. So a bit of an upset there when you look at the ladder so far. Whitefriars remain undefeated, 14-9-93 to 9-5-59 win over South Melbourne Districts. Derry Penola got a win as well, 14-16-100 to 8-11-59 against North Brunswick. And then Melbourne High School Old Boys won their own thriller, 14-10-94, got the better of West Brunswick, 12-16-88. A really close weekend in Div 2.
Yeah, just one kick separating MHSOB and West Brunswick. We quickly checked their ladder as well. Whitefriars, the only undefeated team, they are 5 and zip. A game clear of Powerhouse, Canterbury and Elstonwick in 4th spot. 2 games back to South Melbourne, MHSOB and Derry Penola, and then West Brunswick on 4, Aquinas on 4, and North Brunswick yet to win a game as we take a look at Division 3.
Yeah, and just the 2 games, of course, in Division 3. Wattle Park, 34-point winners over Hawthorn, 18-9, 117 to 11, 17-83. And then Richmond Central, too good for Latrobe University, 14-12, 96 to 9, 15, 69, 27-point win there for Richmond. Albert Park had the bye this weekend, and as we turn our attention to the ladder, Wattle Park still out on top, 4 games, 4 wins, percentage of 453, comfortably ahead of Richmond, who are 3-1, percentage of 127. Hawthorn with a 2-2 record. Latrobe back in 4th with a 1-3 record. And then Albert Park, who had the bye, still looking for their first win of the season.
That wraps up divisional football for round 5. After the break, we will talk VAFA women's competition as For the Love of the Game continues.
Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook and LinkedIn. Has someone just taken a screamer or kicked goal of the year? Send us your best and we might share them around the league. Join in the fun with all the best pics, videos, stories and reels from around the competition. They're all on VAFA socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Let's talk VAFA women's competition, and we'll start as always with William Buck Premier Women's. Just the 4 games now after regrading. Remembering there's Willie CYMS have dropped down to Premier B, so we've got 9 teams, so 4 games and a bye every week. Let's look at the results from round 5. Q 49-33 defeated Westbourne 5 behinds by 28 points. Big win for Old Scotch. 13-9-87 over Old Brighton 2-1-13, 74 points the final margin there. Big win also for Caulfield over St Kevin's. This is a big result. 50 points in the end, the Fields. 8-14-62 defeated St Kevin's 2 straight goals at Rigetti. That's a huge win for the Fields. 50 points over St Kevin's. And the final game of the round, Fitzroy 15-4-94. Good kickings, good football. To 5-5-35 over Old Geelong. They won that by 59 points, did the Roy girls. So we take a look at the top of the ladder, and it is tight at the top here, as we'd expect. 2 teams on 16 points, Old Scotch and Caulfield Grammarians. 1 game back, Fitzroy, Kew, St Kevin's and West Brunswick. So just 1 game separates the top 6 teams in this competition. Old Geelong on 8 points, Old Brighton on 8 points, and Westbourne yet to win a game as we take a look at Premier B Women's.
Yep, so let's roll into that one. We'll start at Elstonwick Park here. Old Melburnians against Williamstown. CYMS, they got the job done. They're the visitors.
So they've dropped back to Prem B and had a win straight up?
Straight up, so 25-point win for them. 5-5-35 to 1-4-10. Bo Morris with a big win over Old Yarra Cobras at Doncaster Reserve, 12-17-89 to 1-3-9. Old Zavs getting the job done just over Glenira Old McKinnon, 3-8-26 to 3-3-21. And then the Port Melbourne Chargers, 6-4-40 over Parkside, 3-2-20. Interesting. All the games won by the away team this week.
There you go. Tipper's
Prem B.
nightmare.
Don't get
lucky
that
you're not lucky you're not having a tip Premier B women as well.
Oh, yeah, no, it would be in a lot of trouble with that one. But as we turn our attention to the ladder, Bo Morris sitting on top 5 games, 5 wins for them. Port Melbourne Chargers, a 4-1 record. Old Melburnians and Parkside separated by just percentage each. We're holding a 3-2 record. Old Varians with a 2-3 record. Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, Old Yarra Cobras and Williamstown, who have come back down. They've carried on their record from Premier Women's to Prem B. So that's why they all sit with a 1-4 record.
Let's talk Division 1 Women's.
So obviously, yeah, there's been some movement in this tier as well. And Marcelin got a big win over Latrobe, who came down from Premier B. It was Marcelin 5-6-36 over Latrobe, 1-4-10. Another draw involving Monash Blues. We'll touch on more of that shortly. The Blues kicked 2-10 to Oakley's 3-4. In the other game, Ormond with an 8-6-54 to 1-3-9 win over Whitefriars, and Powerhouse a big win over Old Kerry, 7-8-50 to 2-4-16. Just quickly touching on the ladder, Marcelin are the ladder leader at the moment, undefeated with 5 wins. Powerhouse are 1 game further back at 4-1. Ormond sit third with a 3-2 record. And then we've got Oakley and Monash Blues both on 10 points, Old Kerry on 8, Whitefriars with 1 win, and Latrobe bringing up the field. But obviously these ladders will take shape in the coming weeks as we see more teams after regrading.
Yeah, correct. There's been a bit of shuffling around, so we'll see how everything sort of shakes out over the next month or so. Division 2 Women's, Richmond Central 2-5-17 defeated Hampton Rovers 1-8 by 9 points. St Mary's Salesian winners over MCC 6-13-49 to 3-6-24 by 25 points. UHSVU over Bo Morris 3-5-23 to 2-4-16 by 7 points. And a close one at Gordon Barnard. D-La 1-6-12 defeated Old Camberwell 1-3-9 by 3 points. So Division 2 ladder. D-La Cell undefeated 5-1. They're 1 game clear of Richmond Central and UHSVU. Further game back to Bo Morris and MCC. 1 game back to Old Camberwell at 2-3. And then Hampton Rovers and St Mary's Salesian bring up the field at 1-4. Let's talk Div 3.
Div 3, 3 games in Division 3 this weekend just gone. Old Haileybury on the road against Caulfield Grammarians, 3-3-21. The field's kicking 3 behinds. Hawthorn, too good for Paran Collegians, the 2 Blue Lions, 8-10-58 to 5-3-9. And then the other match was Parkdale Vultures over Old Yarra Cobras, 8-6-54 to 1-2-8. As we turn our attention to the ladder, Parkdale still out on front. The percentage has dropped again. Disappointing now. It's only at 2,383.
What is going on down there? Sack the coach.
Yeah,
It's a crisis meeting at board level.
No, it's going to be a big week of training ahead. Bring your mouth guard sort of stuff. Paran Collegians, they're in second on percentage at 432%, ahead of Hawthorn and Old Haileybury. All 3 of those teams holding a 4-1 record, a 3-game gap between them and Caulfield Grammarians, 1-4, and then Old Yarra Cobras in 6th, still looking for their first win of the year.
Division 4 Women's, Brayden.
Aquinas, big winners, 10-11-71 over Fitzroy's third side, 1-1-7. The Muggers got a win, 3-6-24 over Masnod, 3-2-20, so great result there. There was another draw, Wattle Park 2-2-14, Brunswick 1-8-14. Albert Park, they had a big win, 8-12-60 to 3-5-23 against Canterbury. And then in the final game, it was Old Zabs 9-11-65 to 1-2-8 against North Brunswick. So at the top of the ladder, Wattle Park with that draw moved half a game clear, with Old Zabs and the Muggers one game further back between themselves. Aquinas and Albert Park are on 3 and 2 to make up the top 5. The Bulls at North Brunswick are 2 and 3, as are Masnod. Brunswick is a half a game further back, with Canterbury and Fitzroy 1 win apiece.
And finally, Division 5 women's. South Melbourne, great win for them. A 6-9-45 held Monash Blues scoreless, so won that by 45 points. A thriller at Packer Park. Glenara Old McKinnon 3-4-22 defeated Ormond 2-9-21 by a single point. Elstonwick winners over Preston Bull Ants 4-12-36 to 2-4-16 by 20 points. West Brunswick big winners over De La Salle 12-9-81 to 3 straight goals by 63 points. And another draw. Parkside 6-2-38, St Kevin's 5-8-38 at Pitcher Park. Our Division 5 women's ladder. St Kevin's on 14 points, half a game clear of Preston Bull Ants. Another half a game back to Parkside. Another half game back to West Brunswick, South Melbourne and Elstonwick, both on all on 2 wins. Ormond, Glenara, Old McKinnon and Monash all on 1 win, and De La Salle yet to win a game. That wraps up VAFA Women's for round 5. After the break, we'll talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premier. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Are you thinking about pulling on the boots and having a kick in 2026? If so, we'd love to have you in the VAFA. Australia's largest senior footy competitions has teams suited to all ages and experience levels, from under 19s to seniors. Log on to vafa.com.au and check out our club directory to find a club near you.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premier. We are loving seeing the match of the round every weekend on KTV. And this weekend, we've got a local rivalry blockbuster at St Bede's Mentone Tigers taking on Parkdale Vultures. And the skipper of the Tigers is LIAM NAPIER, and he joins us. LIAM, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be here.
Mate, talk us through the impact that having the games televised live every weekend, the match of the round, is having on the competition and the exposure that it's giving our young talent around the comp.
Yeah, it's I think it's really great to get the game out there. I think it's one of the quality under 19 comps in the state, if not the country. Like, there's some seriously high quality footy. It just allows for more people to be able to watch it.
What's it meant to the team this week, building up, knowing you got a TV game for the first time, and it's up against Parkdale, your rivals?
Yeah, it's big. Like, everyone, obviously, as soon as the fixture comes out, you're looking for when we're playing Parkdale. Like, I think they're definitely our biggest rivals. Like, we K down the road from each other. And it's obviously a big game, and for it to be one of the broadcasted ones, I think it's a huge opportunity to try and put a good game together.
Liam, it's going to be a big game on the weekend, when no doubt. I'm keen to get your thoughts on how things have started this season for your boys. 4-1, sitting second on the ladder. Things looking pretty good on paper. How have you viewed the start to the campaign?
Yeah, I think it's been really good. I think we sort of just built off last year. Like, I think our record didn't reflect how our year went last year. Like, we had a lot of tight losses to some of the top teams. Like, we had a close loss to Brighton during the year, a couple of close losses to Scotch and Zavs. So I think we've just sort of built from last year. We sort of struggled to run out fourth quarters last year. I think we really built on it to start this year. Everyone's got a second year of playing those 25-minute quarters under their belt, and it's really helped us to finish the games out.
Mate, one name that's caught my eye early in the season, Jai Pugsley, your leading goal kicker. He kicked 30-odd last year. He's already got 13 in 5 games this year. What can you tell us about him?
He's just a great presence to have up there. Like, he really structures our forward line. And to be honest, he probably could have kicked a fair few more this year. He's had a few games where his kicking's been off the radar. I think he very easily could have kicked 20 through the first 5 games here. And he's a big target to have coming out the goal square.
Tell us about the rivalry between St Bede's Mentone Tigers and Parkdale. You touched on it earlier. You're a K down the road. I understand that quite a few of the Parkdale guys actually went to St Bede's, so some of them are schoolmates. You all know each other. There's going to be the senior game in the afternoon. Mentone Reserve's going to be pumping. Then you guys put on a show under lights Saturday night footy.
Yeah, it's obviously everyone throughout the clubs sort of know each other. Like, so many of the coaches, even at Parkdale, are teachers at St Bede's. Like, the under-19 Premier coach, Nick Anderson and Greg Roberts, both taught me in high school, and Ollie Law, their senior coach, taught me. So it's obviously everyone knows sort of each other throughout the clubs. So it really builds for that anticipation because everyone knows each other, everyone sees each other around. So it really makes it one that you just really want to win.
Bit of banter, fair bit of lip out there in this game, I would imagine.
Oh, 100%. Like last Saturday night, we all sort of saw each other out, and obviously a few words being shared, just pumping up the game. Everyone's looking forward to it, I think.
Who's good on the lip for you guys? Who do you expect to be leading the charge? Do you talk a bit out there?
Oh, no, I'm pretty tamed. I usually try and keep the peace out there. Who's good? Curtis Howe's usually pretty good. He usually likes to get into it. Jasper Trumbull. They're probably the two that love the chirp.
What are you expecting from a contest side of things? Parkdale Vultures, obviously a dangerous team. How do you expect this game to play out, and how do you beat them?
Yeah, well, we actually played them in a practice match, so sort of got a feel for their game plan a bit. They like to sort of work it up pretty slow. Was the feel I got, like just sort of chip it up the ground and take the easy ones. I think we've got to be really sort of pressing up, not giving them those easy kicks and sort of forcing them to go down the line, and then just bring it to ground, win the contest in the ground. We've got a lot of good in and under players, good tough players. So I think if we can just force them down the line as much as possible, we can really give it to them.
Brayden, you're going to amp things up a little bit this week with the rivalry. You're going to write a piece in the Herald Sun as well to talk about this, because it is golden. It's a real golden triangle down there, isn't it? You've got St Bede's Mentone Tigers, you've got Parkdale, you've got Bowie, who aren't far away either. There's so much great football talent in that area, and it makes for great rivalries.
No, it certainly does. And what I'm really excited by, both senior sides are going well as well. So we get to see the future. And some of these guys no doubt want to push for senior selection. Liam, I imagine when it comes to this sort of game, I believe the Tigers are having the 20-year reunion for the 2006 Senior Premiership as well. So a few of the old boys might be around, a bit of a chance to show them what you boys can do. Yeah,
well, it's I believe in 2006 the 19s reserves and seniors all won the premierships. I think there might be a fair few people down at the club, so it might be a big day upstairs. So I think it'll be really good to put on a show for them.
Tell us a little bit about the essence of St Bede's Mentone Tigers, Liam. You've been there as a junior all the way through, so you've been there most of your footy life. What's the club about? What's the essence of the place? When someone says to you, oh, you play footy, who do you play for? Oh, I play for the Tigers. Oh, what are they about?
Oh, well, I've been involved with the club my whole life. My dad played 250 games for St Bede's, and then he coached when I was a kid, so I've always been around. And the one thing, even like a few of my mates who've come across now, everyone just talks about how welcoming of a club it is. Like, you can go up to any of the boys in the seniors, the senior coaches, like Tom and Joel, and they'll just have so much time for everyone, have a 10, 15-minute chat with you just about life, and it's a real family club.
How is the co-coach situation? We don't see a lot of it in VAFA circles, but how's it working out for the club, do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's working really well. Obviously, Joel's been the reserves coach for the last couple of years, so I played a couple of reserves games a couple of years ago, and he's just such a good communicator with people. And then Tom is just obviously been such a good football player his whole life, and to have him come back to the club in a sort of coaching, playing role, I think it's a real positive impact to have that person out on the ground as well, just to help some of the younger guys, because I feel like we're quite a young senior team, so just to have that sort of older, experienced playing coach out on the field is a real positive impact to all the younger guys.
Liam, thanks so much for your time, mate. All the best for what promises to be an absolute blockbuster on Saturday night. We can't wait to see it live and exclusive on KTV. Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great to catch up with Liam Napier, and very much looking forward to that game this weekend on KTV. It should be an absolute beauty. St Bede's Mentone versus Parkdale. Well, time to bring in our Under-19 Premier reporter, Lockie Moyer. Lockie, welcome.
Thanks, Jace. Yeah, another good week of under-19s action. Keen to sit down and have a chat.
And Senchi making his debut. The great Sench footy. What are you up to at the moment, Senchi? 270,000 Insta followers? Where are we?
I think 269.
269. We'll get you up to 270 by the end of the podcast.
Not far away.
So your arch nemesis here, Lockie, now on cans. We had a look at the tips last week. We'll get to those shortly. Sench has got you covered by 4, but I have a feeling you're making a move. It's time to make a move. Speaking of making a move, Old Scotch. Their first win of the season, 74-point winners, 16-14, 110, defeated Caulfield Grammarians 5-6-36. Senchi hadn't picked Old Scotch all year, and you randomly just came out and picked him, Sench.
I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone involved at Old Scotch.
You just want to thank the academy?
Yeah. All 22 or 23 players, coaches, staff, impressive performance.
To be fair, you said you weren't going to tip them all year. What made you change your mind here?
Oh, I don't know, just
gut feel.
Just had a
ball,
feeling.
BK, ball knowledge, as the young cool kids say.
Plenty of BK.
Lockie, that was a surprising result. 74-point win. What a great win for Scotch.
Yeah, not only was it a surprising result, the nature in which they did it was just unbelievable. They were just dominant from the outset. Speaking to Hugo Borum, the coach, he was rapt. They've put in a lot of effort this year for not much reward. Obviously, you hadn't registered a win before this week, and yeah, to win in that style was really great for the club, and hopefully they can push forward throughout 2026 and deliver a few more of them.
Brayden, we know Caulfield's got a very young senior side at the moment. Is that hurting their under-19s a little bit because their best young kids are actually getting an opportunity? Great for the club long term, but a bit of short-term pain?
Yeah, I think so. And I think by the time these kids come back to the under-19 system, they're going to be better equipped, and they're going to challenge some of these sides as well, because what you learn at senior footy, you can translate to some of your teammates, that sort of leadership as well, I think, Matty. So at the end of the day, like the 19s, you want to win, but I think the long-term future is what every football club is about.
Yeah, I mean, every club is sort of looking forward. What do the next 3, 4, 5 years look like? There's always an eye on the long term looking forward. It's not always just about the now. You've got to make sure you're setting yourself up for the future too. Lockie, the other game I want to talk about, Old Brighton and Parkdale. I mean, Parkdale, they made a good fist of it and came home late, but the latter lead is just a bit too good in the end. 10-15, 75 to 9-10, 64, just hanging on for a good win.
Yeah, they did. They made a big surge late. Tough conditions made this one a real grind, I thought. So it was good to see both sides respond to the conditions well. But yeah, as you were saying, Parkdale surged late, but probably just left it a little bit too late. They missed some opportunities earlier, and Old Brighton were able to capitalise. But big shout out to Connor Casey in the ruck. It was his first game in the ruck for Parkdale, and he absolutely tore it up. But yeah, look, Old Brighton, I think they were, probably not at their best, speaking to Coach Trav O'Donoghue, and he was wrapped with the fact that they were able to come out with an 11-point win, probably after not sort of playing their best brand of footy. So they're humming along nicely, but yeah, Parkdale certainly not disgraced.
No, and then the next game that really caught my eye, DLRSL must have changed their boots at three-quarter time. So they trailed at every break, boys. They were losing 6-8, 44 to 4-15. 39 against Bo Morris on the weekend. They came home with an 11-18, 84 to 8-8, 56 win. What can you tell us about that game, Lockie?
Yeah, there was a tale of two halves. Bo Morris were really good early, had some really good ball movement, and they were able to sort of dominate territory in that first half and really get on top. But look, DLRSL, under the wise words of Andy Otten, were able to sort of change a few things positionally, and I think that was the difference. They moved the magnets around and they came home with a wet sail. But, I think Andy Otten was saying that second half pressure is what they want for the four quarters, because if you get off to slow starts every week, you're going to drop some games. But yeah, look, good to see them finish off, and they're also, humming along nicely.
Interesting scoreline, isn't it? 4:15 to three-quarter time. Then they come out and they kick 7-3 in the last quarter to get the job done.
Well, that was more.
Yeah, very interesting. Look, it's, couldn't kick in the first half, and then all of a sudden they just all brought it together in that second half. So if you keep keeping at it, you'll eventually get there.
Well, there was more bad kicking in the Uni Blues St. Bede's game. Uni Blues didn't give them much of a chance in the first half. 1 goal, 10-16.
Oh.
Down by 42 at halftime and ultimately losing by 28. 15-9, 99 St. Bede's win to Uni Blues 9-17, 71. What did you make of it, Lockie?
Yeah, it was a really high quality game. Obviously, inaccurate goal kicking probably killed Uni Blues in the end and cost them, probably the win and a much closer scoreline.
Yeah, well, they finished with 2 extra scoring shots, didn't they? And they still lost by 28 points.
Yeah, not only that, they also outscored St. Bede's in the second half. So if they were able to, put it all together for 4 quarters, they probably could have won. So definitely felt closer than 28 points. And, Steve Boakes, Uni Blues coach, is, making everyone, aware of that second half and making it known that they can compete with the best. It's just for 4 quarters, unfortunately, on Saturday, just, probably messed up the first 2 quarters. But, yeah, look, they finished really strongly and they're going good.
The final game of the round, 2 great rivals, St Kevin's and Old Zabs at TH King. It was St Kevin's 12-9-81, defeating Zabs 9-5-59. 22 points the final margin there, Lockie.
Yeah, speaking of both coaches, there was a bit in this. There was plenty of spice throughout the 4 quarters. The traditional rivalry definitely lived up to expectation. And I think St Kevin's were really good under pressure. They executed really well. But look, I think Old Zabs, their transition's one of their sort of focal points of their game. They kept it alive, kept the ball moving, and really wanted to play attack, which is really good to see. And the contest was well and truly alive in that last quarter. But Speaking of Paul Greenham, St Kevin's coach, he still thought sort of in the last sort of 15 minutes of the final quarter that it could have gone either way. So St Kevin's just a bit too polished, but look, it was pretty close although.
We take a look at the league ladder 5 weeks in. It's pretty tight. This is going to be a fantastic competition. Feels like it's going to go all the way to the wire and finals. The run to finals is going to be very exciting. We've got 3 teams at the top of the table at 4-1. Old Brighton, St Bede's Mentone Tigers and De La Salle. 1 game back to St Kevin's and Old Zabs at 3-2. Another game back to Parkdale in 6th at 2-3. University Blues are on 6 points. They're 1-3-1. They had the draw against Caulfield also on 6 points. And then Scotch and Beaumaris on 4 points. So no undefeated teams, no winless teams after 5 weeks. Lockie, this is beautifully poised.
It really is. It's shaping up as a very even competition. Not much separates first from last. So, it'll be interesting to see when teams start playing each other a bit more where they're all going to finish. But, yeah, you can't really get a read on it at the moment. It's very close. So
let's go tips time. Essentially a perfect 5 from 5 because you did predict the Old Scotch upset. Well done to you. Lockie got 4 from 5 because he didn't pick the Cardinals. So at the moment, essentially you lead it by 4 points, 18-14, which means you have the honour on the tipping for round 6. So we'll go Senchi first. Old Scotch versus St Kevin's, Camberwell, 8:20 a.m.
I can't jump off Old Scotch here.
Wow, you're going the double upset.
I don't think St Kevin's will handle the 8:20 start, so I'm gonna go Scotch.
Now, this is it. You can't come back on a Saturday morning after you've hit the nightclubs on Friday night and done your homework to go, no, you know what, I'm actually jumping off. Lockie, who do you like, Old Scotch and St Kevin's?
I'll oppose Sanch. I'll go St Kevin's. I think they've just got the wins on the board and they'll be able to beat.
Old Brighton versus Uni Blues, 9:20 down at Fortress Brighton.
I can't go past Old Brighton.
Lockie?
Yep, same for me. Old Brighton at home. Awfully hard to beat.
Caulfield versus De La Salle, 2 p.m. Glen Huntley Park. The Fielders and De La.
Have to go De La from everything Brayden said. So, yeah, De La for me.
Who do you like, Lockie?
Yeah, same for me. De La Salle, I thought they were good last week, so they can make it another win.
Beaumaris versus Old Zabs, 2 p.m. down at Moorabbin West.
Old Zabs for me.
Yep, Old Zabs for me as well. I think they're going nicely.
And our final game, as we heard earlier from LIAM NAPIER, it's the rivalry game. Can't wait for this one. It's 4:45 at Mentone Reserve and live on an exclusive on KTV. St Bede's Mentone Tigers taking on Parkdale. St Bede's Mentone Tigers sitting equal second, well, equal first at the moment at 4-1. Parkdale won a couple of games back at 2-3. Critical game for the Vultures. This place is going to be rocking, Mentone Reserve. They'll have played the senior game in the afternoon. This is the evening game. Saturday night footy down at Mentone Reserve, 4:45, live and exclusive on KTV. Tigers or Vultures?
I will go up and upset here. I'll go the Vultures.
Go the Vultures. Yeah. Who do you like, Lockie?
I'll make it interesting. I'll go the Tigers. So one of us will be grinning at the end of the game. But yeah, I think that them at home will be hard to beat.
Can't wait for that one. Catch LIAM NAPIER and the Tigers taking on their arch rivals, Parkdale Vultures, 4:45, Saturday afternoon, live and exclusive on KTV. Lockie, thanks as always. We'll catch you next week.
No worries. Thanks, boys.
Senchi, stay with us. After the break, the debut of our new segment here on For the Love of the Game. It's Sench Watch. It's next. Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Well, we've been teasing a new segment. It's on trial, let's just say. It's a pilot. We'll see how it goes. I'm very excited about this. One of the great men behind the scenes at the VAFA is Dylan Humphries, known as Sench Footy, with his 269,000 Instagram followers. Has done an incredible job totally revamping VAFA socials over the last couple of seasons, doing a wonderful job, getting so much great content out there each and every week. Sench, you come across so much stuff in travels, little bits and pieces, all sorts of little quirky tidbits and information, etc. So we thought we'll create a new segment. We'll call it Sench Watch. What's been catching your eye this week? I believe you want to start out at the Snake Pit.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure about Sench Watch. We might have to come up with a better name.
Open to suggestion, please, on socials. If you've got a better name than Sench Watch, come up with it. Let us know.
Starting with the Ganachia brothers.
Ganachia brothers, yep.
I'm not jumping on the bandwagon here. Like, I was told about them probably 2 weeks ago. So not just jumping on after Jonathan made his debut on the
That
weekend.
was a fantastic goal in the last quarter. Brought him back within a couple of kicks. Really smart. Got the handball from Matty Watson and just dribbled it through on the angle. It was a beautiful goal.
The brother as well, Lucas, has kicked 21 goals in 5 games, so he's playing pretty good footy in under 19s.
So is Lucas older or younger? He
Two-
must be
2 years older.
2 years older. So Jonathan's 17, Lucas is 19.
Correct.
Yeah, something to work with there
Yeah.
for Steve Alessio and the Snow Dogs, which is they're a family club. There was an article about it last week about the family connections at the Snow Dogs, and the Guanachis are another one.
No, there definitely are. And young Jonathan's probably got a bit of bragging rights at home. I'm in the senior side before his brother. So, no, it's fantastic. That's what footy clubs are about. That's how you have successful programs, that you bring people in that you're familiar with.
Yeah, they're definitely a couple to watch. Down at Collegian, speaking of someone to watch, they've got a man in great form, lots of men in great form at the moment. One in particular has caught your eye?
Yeah, Hugh Johnson, he's had 3 consecutive games with 150 ranking points, which doesn't happen often, to be honest. It's pretty hard to do. 153, 150, and then he had 186 on the weekend.
Wow.
30 disposals, 18 contested, 14 clearances, 12 inside 50s, and I think 34 hit-outs. So it's like,
So just a
complete game.
dominant ruck. We've been talking about them in Premier Men's a little earlier about how important having a big man that can control the game inside and out, and he's obviously doing that for Collegians.
Yeah, if you can get a good ruckman, you're halfway there to having a pretty competitive side.
We talked a little bit earlier about amazing results across the weekend, and we sort of say, look, normally you kick the ton, you're pretty much home, surely, but to kick the ton and lose by 12 goals, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty stiff. It was the highest scoring game in the VAFA this year. I just did a bit of research. I found
We're talking about the Parkside game?
Yep. So 278 points. 41 points clear of the next best game. I believe there were a couple games on 237.
So what was the total in the end?
278.
278 points. Now, that is a shootout. If you go in there to watch goals, what time did it finish? About 7:45?
Very good for ton watch. I think 3 or 4 guys kick 5+.
See, he's already teasing other segments.
Yeah.
This is going beautifully, Senchi. So from massive results to the closest possible result. We talked about draws, and Matty boldly predicted there'd only be shortly 1 across the weekend. How many did we end up with?
So there were 4 draws on the weekend, including 2 at Monash, senior women's and senior men's.
Both on the same weekend had a draw.
What are the actual odds of that?
That's incredible. In fact, 4 I mean, you've been here for a while now, as you said, just second season. Have we seen anything like that in your time? Not that I can remember.
I reckon maximum 2 in a weekend, definitely not 4. So
what were the games in the end that ended up being the draws?
Yeah, so we mentioned Monash Blues. We've got the 2 blue lines. These are the 2 blue draws. Monash Blues against UHSVU and Div 1 men's, 9-16-70 to 10-10-70. Div 1 women's, Monash Blues, 2-10-22 to Oakley, 3-4-22. Div 4 women's, Wattle Park and Brunswick, 2-2-14 to 1-8-14. And then Div 5 women's, Parkside, 6-2-38 to 5-8-38. So all draws, but none of them sharing the exact same scoreline, all different combination of goals and points.
4 draws in a weekend is extraordinary. Hey, we always like to keep an eye on VAFA players that are going up to the next level and playing VFL. We mentioned one earlier on Darcy Churgwin and him stepping up to the next level for Sandringham. He's been great.
Yeah, so I get the Supercoach points every week, and I always look at the VAFA players. It's the most Supercoach points I've seen from any VAFA affiliated player. He had 29 disposals, 13 tackles, and 7 clearances. That got him 142 Supercoach points. Obviously, there's heaps of VAFA in that team. Andreas Stefanakis played a ripper as well, so shout out to him as well.
I saw his brother, Sebi Stefanakis, is another name that's just suddenly bobbed up around to keep an eye on. And Andreas Stefanakis, well, there's a bit of talk around potentially being a mid-season draft prospect, and why wouldn't he be?
He's absolutely on fire. I think Dan Water almost stole him when he left Haileybury. He wasn't leaving the joint without him, and it's fantastic to see. He just gives me the vibe as one of these guys. The higher he goes, the better he's going to play, which is a trait that you cannot teach at all. He just thrives with better players around him, and he's lit up the VFL, he's lit up the VAFA, and maybe he might be out on the big stage eventually.
And you bang on about Darcy Churgwin, #1 ball getter in the Premier Men's last year. He's gone to Sandringham, took a couple of weeks to settle in. He now looks really right at home in that program under Daniel Ward. One of the favourites of the show brought up a milestone over the weekend.
Yeah, Con Tazoglu, Paddy Grinley's favourite. Shout out to Paddy as well. Coached his 200th game on the weekend.
They're building something special out the other side of town, aren't they? Willie CYMS. We know Willie CYMS and St Bernard's and Westbourne have kind of got the western side of Melbourne covered from a VAFA perspective. They're doing some good things out there.
It's pretty remarkable when you consider what's surrounding them. Like, with no disrespect to the Western League out there, it's probably not the strongest competition, and the growth corridor in the West, Williamstown isn't really the growth corridor. It's probably more of an older area now.
But they are building a pathway.
they've got a great connection with
Yeah.
the Williamstown Junior Football Club. And when you consider what the sort of talents like AFL level, the Western Jets don't have many go through many. But this club to build what they've got is just great. And it makes it be a destination club where people want to be involved as well.
Matty talked a little while ago about the fact that all the away teams won in a particular section. Well, it was quite the opposite in Prem B, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
Prem B men's.
all home teams in Premier B men's and reserves won on the weekend. So
Something a bit quirky there, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Albert Park, we know any clubs around Albert Park at the start of the season struggle to get on the ground because of the Grand Prix. That's now done, and they're going to get plenty of footy if you're around the Albert Park area this weekend.
Do you have a name for this type of weekend? Do you have like the Albert Park?
I don't know. We need to come up with something.
So there's 12 games on at the lake this weekend, 8 men's, 3 women's and 1 thirds, including Albert Park's 100th women's game. So
Yeah, that's a great.
They have a big function and all that. So
Great milestone for Albert Park, the Falcons, one of the great teams of the VAFA, celebrating their 100th women's game. Senchi, couple of Senchi shout-outs to finish with. People that have caught your eye and are worthy of just a mention.
I just want to give a shout out to Peg's under-19 skipper, Joey Cedar. From all reports, he's playing some stellar footy. So just a quick little shout out to him.
Shout out for Joey.
And also Old Trinity socials. The last few weeks, they have just gone from, they've the best I've seen in the VAFA in my time.
What are you looking for from club socials? When you say they're the best in the VAFA and I love what they're doing, what sort of stuff are they doing that others could aspire to do?
Just the vision they got of Ed Chard's 10 goals. Like, this is reserves football, so you don't expect too much most of the time when it comes to reserves. But when you get in vision like that, yeah.
Yeah, just that extra effort and the extra polish that goes into it.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a great idea. Next week, I want to hear your 3 top tips for people who are out there in clubland doing socials. How can you just sort of zhuzh it up to the next level? That's Senchi's tips from the master himself. Let's talk big bags, which I know is one of your favourite segments and you've done a lot with over the last 12 months. Generates huge engagement, doesn't it, big bags and ton watch?
Yeah, it's always a popular segment every Thursday or Friday. So yeah, people love it.
Yep.
They love seeing their names on there. So.
Yep, keep an eye out for that. It always comes out, as you said, it's usually Wednesday, Thursday towards the back end of the week.
Yep.
So this week we've got, and you mentioned him already, Ed Chard from Old Trinity Reserves. He booted 10. That was our only double-figure haul for the weekend. Joe Holden from Parkside Reserves, he booted 9. And Jonathan Merlot from Old Zabs, who played Premier Thirds, he kicked 8. Now, according to Play HQ, and Play HQ can sometimes have a little sort of, not a glitch exactly in it, but, you know, he might be listed with a different spelling, or he might be listed as John Merlot or Jono Merlot or something. But anyway, under the name of Jonathan Merlot, it's his first game in 9 years, and he's come out and kicked 8. So if that is the case, we'll look into that story because that could be something pretty special. If he's just rocked in having not played footy for 9 years, rolled up and rolled out for the thirds with a few mates and kicked 8, that's a pretty good performance. So we'll see how he goes. Ton watch. Mitch Brown, we always keep an eye on. Parkdale Vultures, he kicked 6 on the weekend. So he's up to 32. He's kicked 8 goals clear of the next best. Will Hart from Old Carey kicked 4 on the weekend. So he's on 24, as is Charlie Abbott, who booted 2 on the weekend for Scob under 19. So we've got Mitch Brown on 32, Will Hart and Charlie Abbott on 24. 1 goal back to Oscar Slizzers from Fitzroy under 19s on 23. Paul Carricher from Therry Panola Seniors kicked 4 on the weekend. He's also on 23. A new name joins the leaderboard. Mahi Patel from Willie CYMS under 19s. He kicked 5 on the weekend. He's now got 22 for the season. And Sam Grimley, we mentioned, he was well held for Uni Blues on the weekend. Kicked the 2 goals. He's got 21. So it's Mitch Brown on 32, Will Hart and Charlie Abbott on 24, Oscar Slizzers and Paul Carricher on 23, Mahi Patel 22, Sam Grimley on 21. And in the VAFA women's competition, Georgia Harris has kicked 5, so she's kicked clear. She's 4 goals clear rather. She sits on 17. Isabella Gitzman from Ormond Seniors kicked another 4 to go with her 7 from last week, so she sits on 13. So it's Georgia Harris, 4 goals clear of Isabella Gitzman. They are our leading goal kickers for round 5. Yes, Senchi.
Do we believe in ton watch this year? Is it going to hit?
He's on 32 already, Mitch Brown. Surely if he keeps playing.
Well, we're nearly a third of the way through the season. He's about a third of the way there, so definitely on track.
Yeah, he is. You're right. Now, well, this week coming up after round 6 will be exactly a third of the way through the home and away season. We'll also count finals for ton watch, and Parkdale going okay at the moment. So far, so good. As Joey always says, the dangerous bit's the middle, sort of 6 to 8 weeks in the middle of the season when the grounds get heavy.
Yep.
So we'll have to wait and see. But right now, Mitch Brown certainly on track. Let's talk tips. And Matty, we love a good bounce back story. We love a good redemption. And to be fair to you, after copping a bit of flack last week, you did step up and you picked 13 out of 14 across the 3 categories. Perfect in Premier Women's, perfect in Premier Men's, and 4 out of 5 in Premier B Men's. I think was it Ajax, the one that
Ajax was
Cost you a perfect
one,
round.
the one that, I slipped up on. But no, otherwise a good return to form.
So the good news for you, 13 out of 14. The bad news for you, Brayden got 12 out of 14. So you only caught up by 1. It's 51 to 44. So Brayden still leads by 7. So Brayden, the honour is still yours. Let's start with Premier Women's round 6. 4 games to tip here. Caulfield versus Old Brighton, 11:40 Glen Huntly Park.
We'll go Caulfield at home.
Caulfield for you, Matty?
Yeah, so this is sort of the strategy. Just tip the same as Brayden, but go one different. So I just slowly chip into the deficit week by week. It's a little long way to go. I'm going to go Caulfield here, though.
Westbourne versus Old Geelong, 12 p.m. Andrew Park.
I'm going to go Old Geelong.
Yeah, Old Geelong too.
West Brunswick versus St Kevin's, 2 p.m. at McAllister Oval.
St Kevin's.
St Kevin's for me.
I'm definitely seeing a strategy here. Fitzroy versus Q. It's not the most interesting strategy, but it is a strategy. Fitzroy versus Q, 2 p.m. Brunswick Street.
I reckon this is the hardest game of the weekend. I reckon the Roy's at home.
Yeah, definitely the toughest to tip of the 4, but I've gone with Fitzroy too.
And Old Scotch has the bye. On to Premier B, round 6. Old Camberwell versus Bowie. Your honour.
The Sharks on the road for me.
Yeah, the Sharks to bounce back for the win here.
Old Geelong versus Old Carey.
Old Carey, who have snuck up to second on the ladder, which is surprising. We thought they'd had a bit of a rough start, but I reckon they'll get the job done at Como Park.
No, liking the look of the Panthers. Not premiership favourites, but tipping them here.
Premier B men's continuing. Old Ivanhoe versus De La Salle.
Oh, this is actually going to be a tricky game to tip. I'm going to go... Oh, actually, you're leading. You go first. What am I doing taking the lead on this?
I reckon Old Ivanhoe get a scalp.
Okay.
All right, so this is where we're going different. I've tipped De La Salle for this one.
You're the tiebreaker here, Senchi. Old Ivanhoe versus De La Salle.
Old Ivanhoe.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm up against it now.
Willie CYMS against OMs.
Con and Men.
Yeah, Willie CY's to bounce back.
For both. And Ajax versus Collegians in the final game of Prem B.
Well, Collegians should get Frost and Pinchbeck back here. I think that's been 2 games served now with their suspension.
Is that 2? They got 1 to go. Either way, Ajax and Collegians.
Collegians should be too strong.
Yeah, I think they are. Those 2 are back this week, and they were going pretty well without them. I love what Ajax are doing, but Collegians here.
Let's talk William Buck, Premier Men's round 6 action, and it kicks off with our SEN match of the day. You'll be at this game at Toorak Park, Matty. Also live streaming, live and free on VAFA TV from 1:45. So the SEN app or VAFA TV. It's Old Zabs versus St Bernard's at Toorak Park.
That Zabs train's just going to keep on rolling with a big win.
Yeah, Old Zabs here.
Senchi, who do you like? Zabs or Bernard's?
Zabs.
St Kevin's versus Old Scotch. VAFA, 1:55 VAFA TV on the website. Again, live and free. St Kevin's Old Scotch, 2 great rivals going at it at TH King. Always a great contest between these 2. Can Old Scotch click their way back into form, or will St Kevin's keep rolling?
I think St Kevin's will keep rolling.
Yeah, Anthony Lynch will have given them a bit of a rocket during the week, I suspect, and they'll want to prove that they're one of the teams to beat with a win here.
Who do you like, Senchi?
Scotch.
Scotch.
Oh,
okay, well, that actually worries me a little bit for you too. He managed to pick the upset last week in Under-19 Premier. Seems to have a sort of a finger on the pulse down at Scotch. You seem to know when things are running well and not running well. Blacks and Caulfield Grammarians. This is our KTV live and exclusive game. 1:55 from Melbourne Uni Blacks versus Caulfield Grammarians.
I think Uni Blacks. I'm going to put Zane Cordy down for 5.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try and tip a winner. I'm having enough trouble with that at this stage. Uni Blacks.
Uni Blacks.
Old Brighton versus Old Trinity at the Fortress down at Brighton Beach, which was breached on the last occasion by the Blacks a fortnight ago. Can Brighton start their new winning streak, or will Trinity win 5 in a row?
Yeah, I think the Tunders will probably just be a touch too good.
If there's an upset this weekend, this is going to be the one.
Okay.
No, I can't overlook Old Brighton at home.
Do you feel an upset in your bones, Senchi?
No upset, but as long as there's some good socials from Old Trinity, I'm happy.
Okay, that's a win. We'll take it as a win.
Yeah.
And the final game of William Buck Premier Men's for round 6, Old Haileybury taking on Uni Blues at Princess Park.
Yeah.
This is a critical game too.
Yeah.
Especially for the Blues, and I think with they're going to feel a bit of pressure, and not just externally, but no doubt they'll put some pressure on themselves. And I think that 2-headed monster, they'll be very angry and very hungry for some goals.
Yeah, I mean, you're always a chance when you've got Stewart and Grimley in the forward line. I'm going to tip the University Blues here.
Uni Blues.
Uni Blues all around. Well, that wraps it up for another massive edition of For the Love of the Game. Well done, Senchi. Wonderful debut.
I hope I'm back next week.
How did that feel?
Yeah, good.
I feel good. I think I nailed that. No problem. Back with For the Love of the Game, hosted by Sench next week. We'll review all around 6 action. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.